Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Human Rights Heralds. And I am your usual host, Ogochukwu Onoha, the Human Rights Wizard. And in today's edition, we confront one of the most painful challenges facing communities around the world: unlawful arrests and police brutality. Every day, ordinary citizens are stopped, detained, or assaulted in ways that violate their dignity and their fundamental rights. But knowledge is power. When you know your rights, you can stand your ground, defend yourself peacefully, and demand accountability. In this episode, we explore what makes an arrest lawful or unlawful, how the abuse of power destroys trust, and the courageous individuals who have stood up against brutality. Stay with me as we learn, reflect, and rise together, because justice begins with awareness, and human rights belongs to every human being. And because you are a human being, you matter, and that is why we are here. Today, like I remarked earlier on, in the episode 3 of Human Rights Heralds, we treat police brutality and the reactions expected of members of the society. As a part of our discussion, we'll be talking about what constitutes lawful and unlawful arrest. Secondly, the right of every citizen who is under arrest, and how police brutality violates the fundamental dignities of citizens. Then we shall talk about the legal redresses available to anybody whose right to human dignity has been violated by the police through brutality. And then we discuss some heroes of human rights who have withstood against brutality of any form. And then we talk about steps that the individual should take to protect himself against police brutality and other forms of human rights abuses. As you may have suspected, this is a very large topic to be discussed within the short period that we have today. Remember that this is a quarter hour with the Human Rights Wizard, Ogochukwu Onoha. Therefore, this topic and the subsections involved are beyond the scope of the time that we have in one video. As a result, there will be a follow-up video to this immediately we end this video. Let us begin by answering the fundamental question: what is arrest? In law, an arrest means very simply to overpower an offending individual and hand the same individual to the police for questioning and possible prosecution. That's the meaning of an arrest. Then the next question is, who is authorized by law to arrest an offending person? To answer this question, we need to go to Section 4 of the Nigerian Police Act. The Police Act is the law of the National Assembly of Nigeria that establishes the Nigerian police and defines its functions, its powers, and the limitations to its powers and functions. That section empowers the police as the institution that has the right to detect criminal activities, prevent crime, and arrest perpetrators of crimes or those suspected to have committed or about to commit crimes. So the police has the right in the law to arrest somebody if the officer or officers in charge suspect that a person is about to commit a crime. The police can arrest the person to prevent the commission of such a crime. The police can also arrest somebody on the spot if the person is caught committing a crime, or if the police believes reasonably that someone is about to commit a crime, then the police is empowered to arrest such a person. However, because the police is not always there, the police is not always at the scene of crimes, the ordinary members of society can also arrest. What this means is that the other members of the society can apprehend or overpower somebody committing a crime and subsequently hand the person over to the police. By virtue of this, other security agents, including the army, can also arrest. But having made the arrest, they must hand the accused person or the suspect to the police for questioning and further prosecution. So as you can see, the other members of the society, apart from the police, have the power to arrest only. Having effected the arrest, the arrested person must be handed over to the police. The police alone has the right to question, interrogate the accused person, and then go on to prosecute the person in a law court if this becomes necessary. So as we can see from this analysis of the meaning of arrest and who is empowered in the law to arrest, the job description of the police are quite limited. The power to arrest and the power to prosecute. In case you don't understand what we mean by prosecution, we mean the power to charge the arrested person to court. And this ends the power of the police. The police is not authorized or empowered to punish. When the police punishes a law offender, the police is usurping or taking away or infringing upon the power of the law court. The law court alone has the power to prescribe punishment and then go on to spell out who is to administer the punishment to the victim or recipient. What this implies is that situations where the police beat up a civilian on the road or elsewhere because a complaint has been brought against the person, or because the police found the person committing a crime, or because the police suspect that somebody is about to commit a crime, and we see the police beating up the person openly in the street. That is what brutality means. Now, this is not limited to the police. The Nigerian army is also complicit. Now, let us talk about a situation that is quite common in our society. The army or officers of the Nigerian army brutalizing, that is, beating up a civilian because such a civilian is found wearing a military uniform. Is it lawful for a Nigerian citizen who is not a member of the regular army to wear an army uniform? No, it is against the law. Sections 109 through 110 and 111 of the Nigerian Criminal Code makes it a criminal action for a civilian to wear a military fatigue or other military uniforms. But there are also some subheadings to these sections. One of the subheadings says that unless in situations where the army uniform is worn for the purpose of content creation for artistic activities, that this is allowed. So long as the uniform does not carry the epaulets. The epaulets are the badges and the shoulder decorations that indicate ranking in the police and the army. Of course, there are clothes in the open market that bear the military color, including the fatigue, that's the military camouflage uniform. And it is lawful for citizens to buy and wear these clothes if they so wish. Normally, these clothes do not carry ranks, do not carry badges, implying, of course, that they are not military uniforms. But we know what happens in Nigeria. Members of the army are so full of power, so full of the desire to apply force, that once they see anybody wearing a cloth that remotely resembles a military uniform, they descend on the person and start pouncing on him. Of course, this is an assault. It is a crime against such an individual. Because in the first place, the army is not authorized to beat up anybody. The army is not authorized to inflict punishment on anybody or mete out punishment on anybody. The army is authorized to arrest such a person if the army genuinely suspects that what this individual is wearing is the army uniform, and then subsequently hand the person over to the police for prosecution. In subsequent videos, we shall be talking about what steps the individual victim of military brutality, what steps the person can take to seek redress. I once watched a WhatsApp video, which I'm sure other people also watched, of 4 officers of the Nigerian Army forcing a young man who was wearing a military fatigue to lie inside a street drain, what we call gutter. A street drain that was full of filthy water, dirty water, and force him to swim in that water with the mud and everything covering his body. That is a crime against that young man's right to dignity of the human person. And it is uncalled for. It is an act of ultra-violence, use of excessive force, which is beyond the powers of the army. And it is not an isolated case. Now let us talk about the arrest proper. How should citizens behave when they are under arrest? The first thing that we must know is that it is not something bad, it's not evil, it's a part of the judicial system to arrest somebody and then question the person or possibly prosecute the person if there is a reason for that. Someone has brought a complaint against another person to a police station, and the police has to effect an arrest. Now, this is how to go about it. The police should be the epitome of politeness. They should approach the person and say, "Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam. Someone has brought some allegation against you at our station," and they will mention the station, "and we've been asked to invite you to the station for questioning so that we can clarify the issue." The individual Nigerian who is under arrest must not be afraid. There is no point being afraid. You can't run away from the law, and you shouldn't try to run away. Now, what should you do? First of all, if you are the person under arrest, the police officer or officers coming to effect the arrest must appear in uniform. If they appear in uniform, look at their breastplate, which bears their names. Today, the breastplate is now woven onto the uniform. Because in the past, police officers were known to remove the breastplate each time they wanted to effect an unlawful arrest. Take a look at the police officer's name, and if there is someone at home, get the person to write down the name, find out the station they are coming from. Let all of this be taken down in writing. Of course, if there is no one in your own house or apartment, invite neighbors. Don't do it alone. Let neighbors know what is happening. Ask the police questions. What station are you coming from? What is your name? And even though you've seen the name, you can confirm all of this. Ask for the identity card, even if the police officer is in uniform. And if the police officer is not in uniform, it becomes mandatory that they show you the identity card. Take the card, examine the card, and ask the police officer his name and address. They must tally with what is contained in the ID card, and then hand the ID card back to the police officer. Normally, police officers will tell you, you have the right to remain quiet because whatever you say here will be used against you in the law court. I'd like to tell you that this is trash. There is no law mandating that if you are a suspect, you are not to talk. You have to talk, especially if you are sure of what you are saying. And then refrain from answering questions. If the police ask you a question, tell them, I don't answer questions. That should be your response. They ask again, say, I don't answer questions. What this implies is that you do not want to say things that will implicate you. You need to have your lawyer or your legal representation to advise you first before you can talk. Now, if all of these have been done accordingly, you may go with the police if you have to. But what if you have a job, an employment, an engagement on hand? You can tell the police officers to return to the station, tell them what time you will arrive there, and who you should ask for. Of course, the police officer sent to effect the arrest is called the IPO, the investigating police officer. But remember to keep the time you've given to them. You must be at the station at the time. And if you want to go with them and you decide to drive in your own car, assume you have one, it is acceptable. You mustn't go with them in the police car if you do not want to do so. You might even go by public transport and tell them to drive on to the station while you follow them. All of these are acceptable in the law. Now, what is an unlawful arrest? We've talked about the lawful arrest, some aspects of it. We didn't finish everything. We're still going to continue with this video like I pointed out earlier on. What is an unlawful arrest? Now, if a police officer appears in a uniform that doesn't have a name tag, the ranks and badges are not there, there is no identity card to identify the police officer, that person is not a police officer or might not be a police officer. The arrest is illegal from the point of view of the law. Sometimes it is known that individuals arrange with police officers who are not on duty officially to effect an arrest, an illegal arrest. That arrest is illegal because the officer has not been authorized to do the arrest. Then the officer takes the victim away along with the complainant to an unknown place, not usually police stations. And sometimes some of these have resulted in torture. Some of these have resulted in missing persons. Some of these have resulted in murder and ritual sacrifice. That is why we should be careful. If a police officer appears somewhere to effect an arrest and is not in uniform, the police officer might be on an illegal duty and the arrest might be unlawful. But if you confirm that he has an ID card to identify him and he is able to tell you which police station he or she is coming from and is willing to allow you to report at the police station, at your own time, rather than go with him immediately, then that officer might be genuine. But if these are not the case, that arrest might be an unlawful one. Now, in all cases of arrest, do not go alone with the officer or officers. If you must go alone, tell some people around at home, neighbors, that these people say they are officers and they are taking you to this or that police station, so that somebody can come there and check on you. There is still so much to be said on police arrest and brutality. I will be ending this video at this point so that we can continue this episode in our next video. Remember, know your rights, defend your rights, and protect your rights. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to comment, like, share the video, and subscribe to this channel so that we'll give you more of this kind of videos. In the time being, stay out of trouble. And remember, I am still your humble host, Ogochukwu Onoha, the Human Rights Wizard. Thank you for being a part of history, and I invite you to join me on our next video. Bye-bye.